Hello, everybody. How are you? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. How are you to take a walk around the eighth dimension? So, for me, the eighth dimension is very important for myself because it's the one that gives meaning to all what I do. Basically, I started there. All the memories, remember the network, all those concepts are born in the eighth dimension. So that's why for me it's so important. I will try to explain it with the tools that I have. So I came back to this horrible audiovisual production. So as we spoke yesterday, the seventh dimension is the one that is in the center of this creation, of the creation itself. The seventh dimension is in the core of the sixth dimension, which is the structure with many different options. Okay, that transforms once and again. So the sixth dimension is holding the seventh dimension as the seventh dimension is nourishing the sixth dimension. So here we have the seventh dimension irradiating towards each one of the dots, and the sixth dimension is creating that energy that they absorb. Before we go to the eighth dimension that doesn't have these dots, these points of reference, I would like to explain and clarify something that some people were asking, or maybe is confusing some people, and I say it constantly, which is we are all one in these dimensions, these only fractals. But even though when I explain the dimensions, I say the people that lives in that dimension, the people that lives in the sixth dimension, the beings that lives in the seventh dimension. So maybe that would be confusing for some people. Sorry, in English. As we are millions of people, 8 billion people in this planet, in the physical reality, we all share this reality. We are all living in this reality. Thousands of millions of humans, millions of plants, millions of minerals, of animals, and also the planets, the sun, the moon. So we are millions of beings in the third dimension. We are all in the third dimension. So when we say beings of the third dimension, we are talking about the billions of beings that exist in the third dimension, not only in this planet, but in other planets too. So now, equally as we have here billions of beings in the third dimension, in the fourth dimension, we also have billions of beings. In the fifth, we have billions of beings. In the sixth, we have billions of beings. Okay, so we have billions and billions and billions because myself, individual, I am in the third dimension, but we have also myself. I have another one in the fourth dimension, another one in the fifth dimension, another one in the sixth dimension, another one in the seventh dimension. So I am projecting myself. Not only me, my friend is doing that, my brother is doing that, my neighbor is doing that. So that's why we have billions of beings in each one of the dimensions. The image would be that we are all one, and we all come back to the one. But there are millions of ways to arrive to the unity from the unity. we could say that this is alpha, and here we have omega. So now, let's say that these billions of ways of arriving is only one, is like one being, but living in different levels, which are dimensions. First dimension, second dimension, third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension. So we have different dimensions of only one being that is living different perspectives. So that's why we say the beings of the third dimension, the beings of the fourth dimension, the beings of the fifth dimension, but it's only one. But there are many of ones, many possibilities. All of them are one going to the one, but through different paths in different levels. So, for example, we would say that imagine that we have one huge being of light in the seventh dimension here, but in the third dimension, that being is a tree in the Amazonas. So we usually tend to believe that if there is a master or a higher level vibrational being, it would be a master or an artist like that, but maybe it's just a tree in our dimension. Its physical aspect is a tree. So it means that everyone is multidimensional. So everyone is living in different dimensions, even if they don't have the same patterns or whatever. So now, for example, also can happen that I have a master in the fifth dimension, but in the third dimension is a tree, is only a tree, but in the fifth dimension is a high master. And how can I listen to that high master? How can I receive the information from that high master? Well, because we have connections through the network. Okay, so by patterns of geometry, these beings are connected. They are not separated like this, one. No, they're all interconnected like this. So that's the connection of the networks. So now, for example, take a tree as an example, but you can put it wherever. You can put it as a cat or as a dog or a stone, doesn't matter. It's a physical aspect of someone. So in other dimensions, you will have a master. In the fifth dimension, you will have the master that sees everything, but in the third dimension is a tree. It's just a tree. It doesn't mean that the tree is the master. The master is its aspect in the fifth dimension. So, for example, there are people that live a very human life, like normal life, and even though they are, I don't know, ascended people, like huge masters in other dimensions, or enlightened beings like angels or whatever in other dimensions, but in this one they are not. So somehow, maybe someday they will manage to connect with the self, download the information of themselves from other dimensions. So, for example, something that I think is very clear to understand how the dimensions are there, even if we are not connected to that part, is explained in a phone. a telephone. So you have a cell phone here, physical, it's 3D. You have it in 3 dimensions. So when you have that in 3 dimensions, you also know that inside of you have a software. The software is all the programmation that makes the phone work. Okay, so that would be the 4th dimension. And then you have algorithm, you have the algebra, and that's the 5th dimension, the one that gives meaning to all, the one that makes everything work, really. The 5th dimension, the algebra. And then you have the Wi-Fi, which is like the 7th dimension, all the information going on in the waves. So now imagine that if I break the phone, if I make it into pieces, it doesn't mean that the 7th dimensional aspect of myself, that the programming, that algebra disappear. They are still there. They live by themselves in that dimension. They are still there, existing. The only thing that broke was the phone, which is the 3rd dimensional aspect. So that's why when the 3rd dimensional aspect dies, you are still there in the 4th dimension. So the 4th dimension is like the cloud, like where you upload all the information. So if the phone breaks, it doesn't matter because I have everything in the cloud, which is the 4th dimension and the 5th dimension. Okay, so you get lost. That's what happened when we die. So the thing is that some phones that they didn't make the upload. Sorry, how to say this? The update of the phone. So if you don't do the update, you'll be living with the old software of your phone, which is the old charge of your soul. Okay, and the people that make an update of the phone are able to download the information from the network, the 5th dimension. Okay, so with the example of the phone, maybe you can get a little bit better how the dimensions are connecting with us. Okay. So I think that now I clarified why we have so many beings in different dimensions. So just a little thing. So just as another example, imagine that the body is God, that my body is the entire God. So so we can say, for example, that these fingers are the 2nd dimension, the hand is the 3rd dimension, with this is the 4th dimension, here the 5th dimension, 6th dimension here, 7th dimension, and so on. So this means that we have a human here, an angel here, an archangel here, potestat, cherubim, whatever. So different parts of the body are different parts of the universe, but it's all one. But each part has billions of cells, which specific individuality of each one of them. So that's how we can also see the entire thing. So maybe what we are doing just is watching the tip of the finger of the universe that we are. and the cells can communicate in between one another. Okay. So the potential of the entire universe, the seventh dimension. So the seventh dimension, the seventh dimension is like this light of potential of the entire universe. And this energy is so strong, so hard, that it needs to be released, to be expressed. It's like, for example, in our dimension, Earth, they have a lot of pressure. Earth has a lot of pressure in the core because of the gravity and the atmospheres. It is heavy, so very heavy. So sometimes that energy that is created inside needs to go out to set itself free, and that release of energy is what we experience as earthquakes. Okay, the earthquakes are the movement of the crust of the planet because of that release of energy. Okay, so in the seventh dimension happens exactly the same. So it express this amount of energy, and it goes out and comes back being reabsorbed by the other side. But remember that this structure has 12 rays. So because this has 7 rays, each one of them will do exactly the same. What this is generating. So take a look in what this is generating. If I keep expanding these patterns, look what is happening. See it? So what you see here is 12 toroids 12 torus, that they start to multiply by thousands once and again, creating many, many patterns. What is this reminding you, this structure here? This can remind you the constants of time and space that we have been speaking about. Can you see how the grid of time and space appears? So this is the origin of the lines of time and space, the conjunction of all the torus that creates this dimension is the one that holds the grid of time and space, the constant that we call the net. So in each one of the crosses, I will find with one specifically time line and space line. So what they are doing here, they start to bend themselves. They start to bend the lines of time and the line of space. So that's the bending of time and space, the creation of the nodes. Some going right, the other one going left, is exactly as sunflower distributes the seeds, okay, in two spirals, one to one side, other one to the other side. See? So now take a look about to this, that the light of the seventh dimension expanded in the eighth dimension is the one that creates the basis of the constant of time and space that will hold all the others, all the other creations, all the other dimensions. So this means that the eighth dimension is the essence of all things, is the one that allows everything to emerge, to exist. Is a dimension that brings logics, constants of time and space. Now let's go into see it from another point of view. So from these 12 torus that we just saw in the previous image, now we're going to take only one torus, so two only rays. We take the other 10 and we just take only one that we will call positive and negative. Okay. So now see this. From the core of the seventh dimension, the energy starts to expand outside in the shape of time, and the time turns into space, and it goes back and creates a new time that goes back and creates a new space. Because time starts to expand out. See? So time expands and matter contracts. So this expansion here makes the feeling of a time called future. This is gravity here, because it starts to contract. Everything that was around starts to contract into only one thing. So this is why this time here will be called as past. And in the middle point, we will find the present. And this here will be called eternity. So now see this. Is the future that expands, and is the future that creates the past. Is the future that designs the past. So the past creates structures, rigid structures, that can be lived, experienced in the present, and from there, from the present, we rewrite the codes to create another future. In the eighth dimension, the first time is future, not the past. In the eighth dimension, the future is the one that designs the past. This is why naturally, in order to know where we go, we have to know from where we come from. Okay? The present is the moment where I can use the tools that I have created in order to build a new future. As you see, the linear tempo, the linear time is impossible to be lived here. The only moment where you live the linear time, as we appreciate it now, is here. But the whole rest doesn't have a line. So let's understand something that I wrote today in the blog. So we have here the eternal, the future, the present, and the past. Do you remember that yesterday we explained that this is like a flower? So if we have the flower in the center, the future will be the perfume, the smell of the flower, the essence that you can perceive, that you can feel. So the beings from the future will take from this flower the eternity that we know as nectar. Remember that nectar means death, but those who drank the nectar like gods, they became immortal. So from this flower, the people from the future takes the nectar and the pollen of the seventh dimension. Remember the bees of consciousness coming here? So what do the consciousness bees do in the present? They experiment creating things with the nectar and the pollen. With these products and experience that they have in the present, what do? The beings from the future, they create the past. What is the past? The structures, the patterns of the reality. And that's the beehive with all this geometry, hexagons, the beehive. They create that and they create the honey. So now I have two presents, the present that I live here and the present that I live around here. During my present, I processed all the past. I create the past. And then I had another moment of present where I receive the products of the past. So the bees from here, from the past, they bring also the pollen to the flower. So the flower can create many more. So the flower can expand, can create much fruits and blossom in the next spring. So the eighth dimension is talking us about this process, but not only from one being, but for all the billions and thousands and trillions of beings of every molecule, atom of the entire universe. So the difference with the fourth dimension is that the fourth dimension only has one line of time of one being that we experience. But in the eighth dimension is all of them together, the billions and trillions of beings, past, present, and future of everything that exists is there. This is why to the eighth dimension we usually know it as the registry, the records of all the database of the entire universe. And that's what some of you may call the Akashic records. Akasha in Sanskrit means light. So Akashic records means the records, the registry of all the light. So remember, we have light here in the center, shining. All these are the data of that light. In ancient times, we used to call this the great spider, Manik. Okay, so the eighth dimension is where everything is registered. Everything. Past, present, future, the story of our spirit, the story of our soul, the story of our body, of each of our actions, everything is there, is the matrix. So now in this turn here, we have that the future is the essence, that the present is the sense, and the past is the experience. So in this process, the eighth dimension is the one that designs all existence through the essence. As an example, we can say that the essence is a perfume, and that perfume must be smell. So that's the sense, smell. And the experience is to smell, is the verb. So the essence is a color, the sense is the sight, and the experience is to see. Okay? So in this way, we can tell that the eighth dimension is this essence, this perfume that designs the senses in order to be able to perceive itself, to experience itself. From the poetic point of view, the essence here is the perfume of a flower that needs to be felt, smelled, in order to bring the pollen to create more flowers. So the example of the flower is good to understand why the perfume of a flower is the reason why the plant exists. Because they wouldn't be flower or plants if they don't have the essence that attract the experience. This is why the time designs the space. Time is the key to design everything that exists. Y so, in another way, a little bit more cold, we can say that the essence is the mathematics, the sense is geometry, and the experience is reality. So the reality doesn't exist without geometry, and the geometry doesn't exist without math. So there you have, for the poetic people and the mathematicians, the logic people. So in the eighth dimension is where we find the universal data, the entire information of existence. So of course that this is much more complex and big, but it's a dimension that you cannot explain physically. So that's why I'm trying to find examples for you to get it in a human way, which are not exactly like that, but it's impossible to see the whole thing. So I hope you can catch it. The vibration for today is Lu. The statement for today is, I am love that enlightens. The code for today is have. The next cosmic attribute is the one that emerges from realizing what the being has inside. Everything that lays within and that can take outside. Having is the cosmic attribute of the being that recognizes the tools that has and expresses the difficult faculty, of valuing what is intrinsic to us and what can we get those gifts. This way, the being says, I have, referring to everything that discovers within itself and what can be obtained by its own creation. Let's go to the alignment. Sit comfortable, close your eyes, and concentrate on your breathing. I take a deep breath, becoming aware of the place where I am, and I use my imagination to expand it towards the infinite. Perceiving how the walls vanish in the eternity. As I stay in the center, floating in the void of the cosmos. I remember the light that I have within, the light that expands like rainbows all around in every direction. I remember that I am the potential that gives origin to all my times and spaces, that I am my past, present, and future, and I observe all my life in front of me. I try to remember, to bring the memories, the images, since the moment I was born, throughout my childhood, teenagehood, and adulthood. I perceive that I am close to death. I feel death close to me, and I see my entire life passing by in front of my eyes. Take a deep breath in that instant of death. Taking the death in between my hands, in the middle of lights and darkness. I let go all my life. I dare drink the death instead of running from it. Allowing the death to nourish me in my own light. Turning it into the ambrosy, into the nectar that make me immortal. And by being immortal, I expand my eternity. From my eternity, I expand the future without any limits. Above, around my sides, the present, and under, below, I absorb past, going back to the core, to the eternity. As I repeat once and again this process, I recognize that it's not anymore only my life that goes in front of my eyes. It's not this only life, it's all of them, all around, the past lives, present lives, parallel lives, the future ones, all of them creating the torus around me. All the life from every dimension, every timeline, every space, all of it, they expand and contract once and again in the torus, coming back to the core, to the eternity. I am the origin of all time and all space. I am the essence of existence. I am the love that enlightens. I am the love that enlightens. I am the love that enlightens. I am the network of consciousness. I believe. Take a deep breath as you start to expand this consciousness all through your body. And one time, come back here and now. Thank you, everybody, for being here as always, and see you tomorrow at the same time.